Welcome back to Talking College Baseball. I am your host, Chris Barber. I am joined with our guest co-host, Nick Barber. For the second week in a row, he comes back. Now let me introduce you to our guest for the week. From Staten Island, Strong Island, Staten, Italy, Chris Cannizzaro, also known as Chris Cannizzaro. Welcome to the show. We're pumped to have you.
What's going on? I'm happy to be on. This is awesome.
Oh, man. Yeah, it's awesome to get you on finally. We've been planning on getting you on and stuff like that. There's actually been a Hokie who's commented on a lot of our posts that want to see more Hokies. So a Hokie fan, shout out to him. I forget your name, but if you want to see more Hokies, you're getting more Hokies. But anyway, this is how we start every podcast, and we're going to keep the tradition alive. We're going to start from your early childhood. What made you find the love of the game, and what made you want to pursue baseball?
Alrighty. So my family is kind of a baseball family. I grew up going with my uncles and my cousins to Mets games when I was probably like 5, 6 years old. Fell in love with baseball, I think, just going to Mets games. Like, David Wright was always my favorite player. And then once I started playing, I remember my first full memory of baseball. I was 6 years old. I was playing t-ball, and my cousin actually came and was a guest coach, I want to say. And he got on the mound and was kind of like tossing the balls as they do. Wasn't like real coach pitch yet, but it was kind of just like a toss. And I actually hit a home run off of him when I was 6 years old. And I remember the feeling rounding the bases, just being like, I hit a home run off my cousin, was the coolest thing ever. And all I wanted to do after that was play baseball. So that was in Little League when I first started, probably about 6 years old. Just kind of fell in love with it from there.
You hit a home run off your cousin, and after that, you just feel like this is for me, right? I mean, you're just hit an absolute swamp donkey when you're young, 6 years old. You're rounding the bases, and you're like, let's go. I just hit a home run off my cousin. I feel like David Wright, like every other kid, who's a Mets fan. They're David Wright and stuff like that. For us, it was the Yankees, so it would be like A-Rod and Derek Jeter and stuff like that. Which is, I think it's always nice to, when you're competing against your own family, you have a lot more bragging rights than just like a normal kid. Like, you hit a home run off a normal kid at 6, you're like, whatever. But you hit a home run off your cousin or your brother, you're like, take that, like, suck it. You know what I mean? Like, literally. Definitely. Right, Nick? I mean, what would you say?
I mean, yeah, I remember, Chris, you know this story real well. Unfortunately, it didn't turn out well for me. But I think maybe I was a freshman in high school, or you were in 8th grade or 7th grade. And we went out to the field, and I was pitching. I remember I was like, I'm gonna blow smoke past this kid. He doesn't know what's coming. And so I get on the mound, 2 pitches in. He turns on. I'm like, oh Jesus! I remember just walking home. I was like, I'm not doing this. I still hear about that today. Every other time I see him, he's talking about, remember when I took you deep at Laird Road? Yes, Chris, I do. It just means
you make it sound like you're innocent, but like, you talk shit to me growing up every single day, whether it be my height or my size or whatever. Don't start. You always talked that whole bunch of hula about it, whatever, and you said you're gonna blow me up in a fastball, and then you throw the fastball, and I sent that thing into the woods, and I bet it's still there. So don't start. I will expose you on this podcast right now.
Listen.
Oh, man.
Listen, I tried to blow smoke past him. He turned on it. It's that simple.
Go get somebody to cut some trees down so you could find that ball. But anyway, Chris, yeah. Now let's get back to where we're at. I'm sorry I had to handle a situation right there.
Hey, sometimes business needs to be handled. That's all.
So you find the love at a young age. You go to middle school. You start playing in middle school. I'm guessing, do you play any other sports growing up?
I did. I played basketball, and I played a little bit of football. Primarily, I was basketball, baseball. And I think I liked basketball more up until about 7th and 8th grade. I just loved it a lot. And I kind of thought my future might have been in basketball for a little bit, but that kind of all changed once I got to high school.
Yeah, that happened. I think you're the third or fourth guest who have mentioned that. I mean, me included. That basketball in middle school, we thought we were like going to the NBA and stuff like that, and just because we're just dominating local rec leagues and stuff, and school ball, and then we just baseball wasn't as interesting because you don't get that you don't get to just drop buckets like in basketball. So
Exactly.
like you're doing baseball and you're like, maybe, but basketball, I'm going to go to the pros. And it changes real quick when you're not 6'7" and, dunking and stuff.
Yeah,
So,
we learned it the hard way.
Learned it the hard way, but that's great. I mean, you played multiple sports. Did you continue to play multiple sports in high school?
I did not. I stopped playing. I remember I actually went to the tryouts for basketball in high school, and I made the team or whatever, and I was going to be on the JV team as a freshman. And I talked about it with my parents, and we kind of just thought focusing on baseball full time was going to be the best for me. So I cut it off once I got there.
Yeah, so I mean, you cut it off. You focus on baseball. Was it that moment when you cut off and focused on baseball where you wanted to pursue a collegiate career, or did you want to just play baseball full time and eventually, see if you wanted to play in college, or did you know right there and then that you wanted to play college baseball?
I think for me, it was the second I got to high school. I was very fortunate. I went to a high school that produced unbelievable baseball players year in and year out. My freshman year, I was on JV. I didn't even make varsity. The whole lineup was 9 Division I kids, and we had 2 Division I pitchers throwing almost every game for us. And just seeing like those guys get talking about like all their offers and their visits and how much fun they were having, and then them on signing day going and rooting them on and taking pictures with their friends and family, like all of that just really made me want to pursue it in college. And that's kind of, I think it was literally the first day of practice or the first meeting, just seeing all these guys and how successful they were. Like immediately my mindset was, I want to be like them.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of, it's kind of good to see motivation from like older guys, especially when you get to high school, right? And you see guys that are doing what you want to do, and it's easy to want to follow that, which is really great. I mean, having good role models. I mean, would you say there was anybody in particular that really inspired you in high school?
Immediately coming to mind, I would say there's 2 guys that come to mind. One of them is a fellow Staten Island guy. His name's Anthony Prado. He was a shortstop at UConn, now in the Minnesota Twins organization in AAA, on the verge of getting called up. So I would get on the bus with him every morning, stay with him. We would practice, lift, hit together every single day, be on the 6 o'clock p.m. bus home back to Staten Island from Brooklyn, and just doing that every day with him. And like, he's the most talented player I think I've ever played with. So just seeing him be successful and going to UConn, and like he's going to be in the pros next year, 100%. So like, and just thinking about going back, and I spent 4 years on the bus with that kid. Like it's just crazy. But him for sure. And then the other guy I would name would be Tyler Winsig. He was a fellow Brooklyn kid who actually went to Bucknell, and I got the chance to play with both in high school and in college. He was just the most motivated and like hardworking kid you'd ever see, a great leader. So I kind of just tried to follow him and be like him.
Yeah, I would say listening to the last few weeks and listening to you guys talk, I've noticed that in high school you guys have learned more from your teammates than I would say like your coaches, and I think you've been able to you follow the lead of these guys that have gone on to college and Division I schools. I don't know if you guys have the same opinion, that you sort of want to follow those older players rather than sometimes listen to some of what these coaches have to offer for you guys?
Yeah, I think it's one thing when you see like a coach talk and do these things, but when it's like your friends and guys you have really personal relationships with and guys who you share the locker room with every day, I think it's kind of a different connection and like a different point of view that kind of relates to you a little bit more.
Yeah, and to add to that, Nick, I think that for me, well, I think for anybody playing baseball in high school and stuff like that, and you see the older kids and the seniors and stuff like that that have done it, and they're committed to a Division I school, and your coach could be like, "Okay, guys, we're gonna run some sprints," and you're like, "Okay, I guess we're gonna run some sprints." But if that senior on the team is like, "Oh, we're running sprints," yes, sir. We're running sprints, I guess. You know what I mean? So it's kind of like that. You want to look. It's guys you look up to. It's more than the coaches. It's like I think high school could really make or break a player based on the role models they have. So
Yeah.
for the listeners out there, if you're a senior in high school and there are younger kids, instead of telling them, "Oh, go get the buckets and go pick up the balls," yeah, I mean, you could do some of that, but don't be that guy who just completely shits on freshmen all day long, because you don't know how that's going to affect someone's career. I mean, if Anthony Prada, right, I believe that's his name.
Yeah,
Anthony Prado, if he did that to you and just shit on you and told you, "No, I'm doing my own thing," and stuff like that, that would have really changed your perspective, I think, on college baseball and stuff like that. So, I mean, I think it's really important for older kids to shape the younger kids into becoming a great player. So yeah, I mean, based on that, you're following really good players. I mean, you said he's one of the most talented players have you ever played with, and that's saying a lot because you played with some really good dudes, and for him to be one of the most talented guys, it's like, wow, it's a reason probably why he's in AAA. But now that you're in high school, when did the transition start from you being a younger guy to you being the leader on your team? Because you're the younger guy shadowing an older guy. When did the transition start where it's, okay, now it's my turn to lead other dudes? And how did that happen?
Yeah. So, like I said before, my high school was just filled with really good baseball players. I didn't get my chance to really play right away or come out and shine until my junior year. I had parts of my sophomore year on varsity where I would, pinch hit or go be a defensive sub. But it wasn't until my junior year where I really got a chance to play every day and kind of show what I could do. And I give a bunch of credit to the senior class ahead of me. It was a really good group of guys, a really talented group of guys. But the way they interacted with each other and the way they brought the team together, well, as seniors, they allowed me as a junior and my friends who were also juniors to kind of take on leadership roles as well. And I think just the team chemistry that we had was one of the strongest bonds I've seen on a baseball team, and it was awesome. So I think it allowed me to not only be comfortable as an older guy, kind of finally stepping into his role, but I think for the team to flourish. It was just a really fun year. We wound up winning the championship with like a crazy record. And I don't think I even did anything statistically crazy, but I think just being an older guy and having support from the seniors, like really helped me kind of come into my own a little bit.
Yeah, it's good that you mentioned team chemistry because we talk about that a lot here and the importance of it. We just want to hear a little bit more on that. How important do you think team chemistry is to really having a winning ball club?
Personally, obviously the talent needs to be there on every team, right?
Yeah.
But if you don't have the chemistry in the locker room, like I don't think you're going to be successful. Chemistry is so important. At the end of the day, like if you're standing next to 80 of your best friends on a baseball field and you would do anything for that guy, I think you're going to be way more successful than if you weren't,
Yeah, I mean, the question that most people are going to ask is, how do you, especially coaches, we have a lot of coaches that watch this podcast and stuff like that. And the $1,000,000 question is, how can our team mesh together? How can we allow our team to have the best team chemistry? What do you think would allow teams, especially in high school, to be able to do that? Because not everyone drives, first of all. Not everyone has access to just hang out with everybody and stuff like that. So how were you guys so tight and stuff like that? So how would you build team chemistry?
Yeah, so for us, we would actually work out Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. And this would be from you had two options at our school. You could either take the 3 o'clock bus home or the 6 o'clock bus.
Mm-hmm.
So we would always take the 6 o'clock bus every day, everybody on the team. And we would work out from 3 o'clock. It would either be the track, the weight room, or the cages. And we would kind of flip and we would get all three in pretty much almost every day. But I think just spending that time with each other and going through like the running and the lifting and hitting every day and just continuously doing it and like having the laughs and going through the tough struggles, that definitely helped a lot. And then also we were really lucky and got some free periods during high school, and we would spend all of our free periods together. Like there was a couple times we would set up a Wii in the locker room and we'd be playing like fun Wii games, and just it's stuff like that where you build bonds that reflects on the field.
Nick?
Yeah, I would say, like, I agree with what you said with I think teams that really become great have really bonded over the tough times that they've gone through. I think if your guys come out and you guys are undefeated, like, and stuff, you're expected that you guys are going to win, but not always the case. Like you see in the major leagues, the Yankees were supposed to be one of the best teams in the league this year. It just didn't happen. They didn't mesh. Didn't have the right chemistry. Players in the clubhouse didn't like each other. They could have the best players in the league. If they don't play well together, it's not going to work out. But I think, like you said, in your high school career, you went through tough times with your team, and it only made you guys better through the hard work. And I think that's what a lot of these kids and a lot of people out there need to learn, that tough times really build people closer together, bring people closer together.
Yeah, Nick, I agree with that completely. I just have to say one thing about the Yankees. Are the most overhyped baseball team or sports team in the world. So every year they're expected to do good, even though they're not that good. But I'm just putting that out there. I'm just going to move on from there.
No.
Chris, would you like to add to that?
You cracked it.
Listen, I mean, in terms of overhyped sports teams, like, at least your owner didn't go put $360-something million into a team and they're going to finish below 500 and be one of the worst teams in baseball. So,
Yeah, you were going to make me say something about Chris's Mets, and I didn't want to do it.
Listen, I've heard it all. It's in terms of about as bad a year as you could have, the Mets have done it. So,
New York sports are hurting right now, big time.
Struggling.
Not looking
struggling.
Good.
It's not looking good. I mean, I thought our Jets were going to be, I'm not even going to get onto that topic.
Oh, man.
Shout out to Aaron Rodgers. I know that he might be watching the podcast. So shout out to Aaron Rodgers and a quick recovery to him. And, Zach Wilson needs to get cut immediately. So if you're watching, you're dog. That's all I got to say. But this is not a football podcast. It's a baseball podcast, a college baseball. So we're going to get back into it. Chris, so now that you're in high school, this is high school baseball. So where is your high school? Because you're from Staten Island. New York is completely different than the suburbs. Every single guest was from the suburbs. You're the first city guy, right? I guess you considered Miami a city, right? But at the same time, it's more suburb than Staten Island. Let's be real. So let me hear. You live in Staten Island. Where's your high school located?
So my high school is in Brooklyn. It's right over the bridge from Staten Island. So literally, it's the first exit once you get into Brooklyn from Staten Island. Mm-hmm. But it was definitely different. Like, I did have to go over a bridge, and it was almost an hour commute every morning to get there.
Yeah, I mean, I can only imagine because for us, our high school is 10 minutes away. Most of our guests are high school 10 minutes away. Most of the time, we would either drive, take a quick bus. But you saying you're in a different borough, Staten Island to Brooklyn, different borough, and you're traveling in. I shout out to the bus drivers in New York City. Man, they deserve a pay raise because
They
driving
really
in
do.
New York City in the
They
morning
do.
is unbelievable. It is actually probably one of the most difficult things to do, and to drive a school bus with a whole bunch of kids is unbelievable. So I want you to run through because it's a very unique, different schedule that people are used to. But for you, it's pretty common. I want you to run through your morning schedule, your wake up time, what would you do, and then all the way through until you got back because this is a difficult schedule, especially with the traveling. So please, I'm actually very curious to hear this.
It's funny because I'll always remember this just because I did it for 4 years and it was such a pain in the ass every single time. So I would wake up at 6:30 every morning, same alarm, whatever. I would get right in the shower. I would usually eat like a quick breakfast, maybe a couple eggs or toast or nothing too crazy, but I would eat a quick breakfast and I would walk 10 minutes to my bus stop and I would get on the bus at 7:20 a.m. every day. And I wouldn't get on the bus. You'd probably have about an hour, maybe a little bit less, depending on the traffic, to kind of either finish up some homework, just hang out, listen to music, talk to your buddies. But you get to school around 8:20, 8:30. You're in class from 9 o'clock to about 3:30, depending on the day, with some free periods mixed in. So once you get out of class, we would hit, we'd lift, we'd throw, we'd run, we'd do whatever we had to do that day, whatever our coaches wanted, from about 3:30, 4 o'clock to about 5:45. Get on the 6 o'clock bus, drive home back to Staten Island, and on a good day, I'm probably getting home around 7:15.
That's heinous. That's absolutely heinous. I'm putting that out there right now. You mentioned that you had to get on the train sometimes. What was that?
Yeah, I mean, sometimes, like, if I would miss the bus or if the buses weren't running that day, like, special schedules, there'd be days where you'd have to take a train or something like that, and that's pretty rough, too.
What was the number? Did it vary or?
What, for the train?
Yeah, was it the Q train, the B train, D train? What was
See, in Staten Island, there's only one train. Just
one train.
It's just the Staten Island Railway, and that's it.
Staten Island Railway. Boom! Missed the bus. You're hauling ass to the train. You missed the train. You're sleeping in the locker room. Okay,
No.
That's what it sounds like. Because
Is there a ferry?
the ferry from Staten Island to New Jersey, unless he wants to come sleep at his former residence in high school. Yeah,
There's another ferry that goes into New York.
There's a ferry from Staten Island to Manhattan, but that wouldn't help too much. That's the one you take if you're going out in the city or something like that, though.
man, I remember. Staten Island is a pain in the ass to drive. I can't imagine. I still can't get over a bus going through Staten Island and over the bridge, man. I mean,
With a
good
bunch of screaming kids. Are you kidding me?
screaming kids. Think about the people driving. Oh, how you doing? You know what I mean? Going around, it's like, get out of here. You know what I mean? It's nuts. It's
Get the hell out of the
nuts.
way.
Literally. You come home, you probably see some guy walking his pit bull in a guinea tea and a wood bat, right? Like,
Yeah, that's just your neighbors, your casual
that's your neighbors. Hey, how you doing? That's Joe from down the street.
What's
How
up,
you
Joey?
doing?
What's up, Tommy?
How you doing, Sil?
Oh,
How you doing, Sil?
That's it.
yeah. Sil, how you doing? Yeah, no, that's great. So that's a hell of a day. You get back at 7:15. The last thing you want to do is do homework, and
Exactly.
you probably have homework because why wouldn't you, right? Why wouldn't you? And then you do your homework. Now what? It's what, 8:30, 9?
Yeah, I mean, if there was time, I'd probably play some video games. I was a big gamer back in the day too. Not as much anymore, but I definitely got my share of video games in. But just like try to go to bed early and wake up and do it all again the next day.
I mean, you're just dreading hitting the pillow because you're like, I got 4 years. I just had 8 years of doing this. Now I have 4 more years. of doing this in high school. It's just brutal. I thought we had a tough schedule, but man, we had it easy compared to that commute. I mean, those bus rides home was probably an instant nap, right? I mean, that's an auto nap. I mean, on the way there, probably an auto nap as well.
Sometimes you'd have, if you fell asleep, and you'll love this, but we got our bus driver who's named Vito. If you slept past your stop, Vito would have to come yell your name and tell you to get your ass off the bus.
Wow, Vito. Hey, Cannizzaro, you stopped here. Oh, you don't want to mess with Vito. Yeah, I can tell.
You don't mess with Vito. Vito's
we had this lady named Donna in middle
school.
Oh
my gosh. You were a bad person at Donna.
Smoking cigs all day, and she'd be like, hey, you stopped here. Hey.
She reminded me of Chris Farley from that movie, from Billy Madison.
Oh, from Billy Madison. Everyone off the bus. Yeah, literally. Man, that's great. I mean, God, you're probably trying to take a snooze, and you got the weird kid Billy behind you, and he's probably tapping you in the head the whole time. Those bus rides are brutal. But anyway,
yeah.
Go ahead, Nick. Go ahead.
Well, you used to do the Donna on that bus stuff. Come on.
What did I do? Give some examples.
I can't get into it. I don't want to get into it.
Come on. Give me something.
I mean, you were trying to be John Cena in the bus. You're jumping rows. You got the poor girl Sarah on the other row. You're just jumping across, giving someone an attitude adjustment. And we're getting off the bus. Let's see the backflip every day. We'll break your neck.
Jeez, Barbs.
Nick, tell me or tell me not. Yes or no? So yes or no answer, or a question. Was I or was I not entertaining? Yes or no?
Yes.
They look forward to that backflip day in and day out.
Did you ever
you did a
backflip
off the bus every day?
No, so I'd come off the bus and I'd look at everyone roll down the window. They got the phones out, iPods, whatever the hell they had back there. Everyone's looking. The bus drivers, Donna's looking. Donna's like, what the hell? I'm just like, I put the arms up. Boom! I rip a backflip, more of like a back handspring. The bus. I remember the last day of middle school, I did it, and I completely landed. I don't even use my hands. The whole bus erupts. I'm like, come on, let's go. But I was also a little nutty back then. A little, not as much now, I guess. Yeah. Anyway, so now this is high school baseball, but let's talk about a little bit of travel baseball. Did you play travel baseball?
I did. I played I would say serious travel baseball starting my sophomore year of high school.
So when did you start? You started going to these tournaments and stuff. I'm guessing Perfect Game.
Yep.
Right. And when did you start hearing conversations from college recruiters, college coaches?
Yeah. So I'll kind of run you through the whole process and how it worked for me. I got stuck in what we call the Staten Island bubble, and it's kind of playing for the 3 travel teams that are in Staten Island. And they're not getting out a ton. They're playing local tournaments. They'll go to Diamond Nation. You guys obviously know where that is. Every once in a while, but it wasn't crazy. Like, they didn't have the connections to coaches you were looking for. So the name I mentioned before, Tyler Winsig, who I went to high school with, he set me up with this organization called Time to Sign Sports. And they were a travel team, and they were also a advisory company, all in one. So my sophomore year, summer comes around. Tyler recommends me to go play for them. I have a couple meetings, like a couple workouts with them. We decide it's the right move, and completely blow my mind with what we go through. I'm on bus tours in like the southern states I've never even been to before. We're doing like 3 colleges a day, visiting, kind of walk through some coaches, like tours, all this crazy stuff. doing tournaments in Georgia, Florida, North Carolina. So places I've never been to, schools I've never even heard of. I'm kind of getting all of it. So they were the ones who really got me the exposure that I was looking for, and I really needed to.
Yeah, so you're doing all this, going to places you've never been before. When was your first offer?
So I was severely undersized in high school. I was probably about 5'7", 145 pounds maybe in my junior year of high school. My first true offer came in the middle of my junior year of high school, and it was from Bucknell. They were my first offer. They saw me in the fall of my junior year in Fort Myers, that big tournament that everybody goes down to. I had a really good couple games, and they were there to see it. They invited me for a visit. I think it was their junior day, it was called, like their junior day where they have a bunch of kids down. And really liked the school, kind of continued some conversation. Coach Knights, who is the recruiting coordinator, came, saw me play a couple high school games, and towards the end of our season was my first offer.
So you're playing towards the start of this high school season. You had a call from the Bison. Now you're like, okay, well, I got a Division I offer. How long did it take for you to commit?
So I was talking to a couple other schools. Nobody made an official offer, though, besides Bucknell. At the time, I didn't have the best grades. I'll be honest. Like, my high school was very hard academically. I was always a good student, but I was really, really struggling at my high school. And my high school coach is about as straight a shooter as it gets. Like, I'm still friends with him to this day because he will tell it how it is all the time. Absolutely, like, love him for it. We sat down, me, my mom, my dad, and him, and he kind of said, this is the absolute best situation for Chris. He's going to get a chance to go in and play right away. This is the best academic fit for him. He's going to get an unbelievable degree at a school he probably has no business getting into. And kind of hearing that, my parents were like, listen, this is a dream come true. Like, we think you should do it. And it took me literally a couple days after that offer to commit.
So you commit to a Division I school. You go back to your high school. Obviously, there's a lot of talent in the high school. But, obviously committing to a Division I school for baseball, you're probably walking around like, hey, I'm low-key the man, right? Like, I'm kind of the man. Is that how you felt a little bit? Because, like, everyone feels like that, of course.
I would say so, just because, like I said, looking up to all those guys and they did it. And once I finally did it, I felt like so accomplished and so achieved. Like, it was the best feeling ever. So I probably walked around the halls like that a little bit, but it was just a great feeling.
That's good. I mean, so now you're lining up, you're going to Bucknell, your senior year hits. You have to report to Bucknell. Did you have any expectations or concerns going into your freshman year of college?
I was very, very comfortable being at home, and I didn't love the idea of leaving home. So I was pretty scared going my freshman year. Like, you can ask my parents and they'll tell the story. I was dreading, like, freaking out the night before I had to go move in. So I was definitely homesick for the first couple months I was there. And baseball wise, I was a little nervous. Like, I didn't know what to expect. I was still severely undersized. I think I went into college at about 150 pounds. I'm still not the biggest guy either, but if you could picture me minus about 25, 30 pounds now, that's probably what I looked like freshman year. So I went in there skin and bones. Like, some of these kids who are obviously seniors have been lifting for 4 years, and I was definitely intimidated at first, that's for sure.
So tell the viewers where Bucknell's located.
So Bucknell is located in a small town called Lewisburg, Pennsylvania. It is a typical small town. You got Bucknell, the college. You got small downtown area that ranges about 10 to 12 blocks with some stores, some restaurants, some bars. And it's really not much to it. If you go a couple miles outside of Lewisburg, it's straight cornfields and farms and stuff like that. Most people, when they ask where it is, I tell them it's an hour away from State College.
So it's nothing like Staten Island.
Not at all.
Like
It's the exact. If you could picture the exact opposite of Staten Island, it's probably Lewisburg.
So now you're in a very farm-like area, and that weather over there gets real nasty in those areas. At least in Staten Island, in the city, the wind gets knocked down a little bit. But man, that wind gets whipping in Pennsylvania. And at 150 pounds, some might say you had to walk out to center field with an anchor, or you'd fly away because that wind would really pick up. And I'm just saying, you know.
That same analogy was used. It was.
And I mean, now you're used to the cold from Staten Island, but now you're playing in the fall for the Bison, and the workouts are much different, I assume, than high school. The schedule is much different than I assume in high school. You get more freedom. You're not 7 to 7 like in the blue collar Staten Island high schools, but you have more freedom. But now you're in a middle of nowhere place with people you have no idea. You know one person there from your high school, right? And now your experience and your atmosphere is completely different. You say you're homesick for 3 months. How did you adjust after that? Because it comes to a point where people are like, okay, well, you either suck it up or that's it, right? Because most people crumble in that situation, homesick, whatever, this and that. But for you, you had to really suck it up, figure it out, and then going into your freshman season in college, what transpired?
Yeah, so like I said, I was homesick for a little bit, and it took me a while to kind of figure everything out. I give credit to the guys who were in my class. So there was 7 of them along with me, makes 8 at the time, and we were just like really good friends, and we kind of were all going through it together. A lot of us were in the same situation. Like my freshman year roommate, who you know, Kendall, he was really homesick too, and we kind of leaned on each other a lot to get through it. And we learned pretty quickly, like, it's time to put up or shut up. Like, if you're not going to get on the train with the rest of the team, like, you're going to get your ass left behind. Like, that's how it is in college baseball. So if I didn't adjust and I didn't figure it out, like, who knows what would have happened. But luckily, like, kind of got my head on straight, got my feet under me, felt more comfortable as the fall went on, played pretty well, had a good fall. The word at the end of the fall was like, hey, you're going to get an opportunity to play. Like, we think you can help us for sure. Didn't know what it was going to be exactly. And then as we go in to spring, we have an outfielder get hurt, which obviously you never want to see one of your friends go down, but opened a door for me that I didn't think was going to be opened. So my freshman year, I'm 18 years old. First game of the year, like the small Patriot League Bucknell Bison are opening up at NC State, and I'm in the lineup playing right field and hitting, I think, 7th or 8th in my first college game. So it was pretty crazy what transpired.
Yeah, I mean, you're going from Staten Island playing on concrete to going to NC State, right? You're playing at NC State, ACC program. At that time, their ACC program, they're pretty nasty. You're 18 years old, you're 150 pounds. You're like, oh boy, this is legit. It was probably packed, probably a good amount of fans. And you step in the box for the first time. What goes through your mind?
The story of my first college at bat is one for the ages. It is hilarious. I was so shell-shocked in the batter's box. I'm going to send you the videos after this because it's that funny. I watched the same pitch 3 times go right by me, and it was a fastball on the outside corner. And thankfully, the third pitch, it was 0-2, like the first 2 were clear strikes. The third pitch, the umpire gave me a ball. Like, in no business being a ball. It was on the black. Like, should have been strike 3. He throws the same exact pitch, and I hook a double down the left field line. And I just remember being like, oh my God, what is going on? Like, this is the craziest feeling ever. Like, looking at my teammates from second base and celebrating. It took me so long to even process what happened. But should it have been a double? Should it have been a strikeout? But it was crazy.
Big double. It's a double in the books. You got the second. You're throwing those air arrows at the dugout. You're going crazy. You got people in Staten Island. You could hear them through the TV and through the broadcast screaming. I mean, come on. You know how it is. You're fired up. You probably don't even know where you're at. You're probably like, what is happening to me right now? But would you say that was the moment that really kind of like was like, okay, I'm here now. Time to really do it.
Like, absolutely, definitely. I, like, never in my mind, like, coming from Staten Island and, like, your first college games at NC State and you hit a double, you're like, all right, like, I'm here. I can do this. Like, I'm playing against the best kids in the world. Like, their shortstop at the time was a first-round pick. His name was Will Wilson. And their catcher, his name was Patrick Bailey. He's with like playing for the Giants now.
Yeah.
So when you look back and like, all right, I'm 18, I'm a freshman, I'm new to this, but I can do it just like these guys can. So like, why can't I think that was for me the moment I knew I belonged there, for sure.
Yeah, I was gonna say like, for you coming in, it's like it's definitely a shell shock, but like you guys playing so long, it's like I tell the guys that I work with every day, the freshmen that come in for football here at Miami, they're not used to these big crowds, 45,000, 50,000 people in the stands. But when they're like getting nervous, I'm just like, you're gonna get hit once and you're gonna get up. It's just a football game. You've done it 100 times. Like you said, like you're nervous for the first 2 pitches and then it's natural. Like it's just baseball. The game didn't change. Nothing changed. It's just a bigger environment. The game never changed.
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah, so it's just the same game, but like for that, I remember for those first couple innings and up until my first at bat, man, was I all over the place in shell shock.
Yeah, so I mean, obviously as a freshman getting a double in your first at bat at NC State is pretty electric. So that year, I believe it was an okay year. You're a freshman, you had a decent year, but then you go back your sophomore year a little more established. It is the COVID year, your sophomore year, correct? And
it is.
You start off pretty well, and COVID hits. When COVID hits, what's run through your mind? You're a sophomore now. You're like, whoa. Like, I'm expected to have a really good sophomore campaign. COVID hits, and now what?
Yeah. So, like, the end of what happened in my freshman year, too, was I played every game, started every game, and then we were down on our spring break trip in Florida. I dove for a ball, landed on my shoulder. My shoulder popped itself back in, and I tore everything in my shoulder. So I missed the rest of my freshman year, had to get surgery. So coming back, like I missed my fall of my sophomore year because obviously I was rehabbing. But like you said, my coaches were planning on me to have a big sophomore season. Started out really hot, like hit my first 2 career home runs at Virginia, which was crazy. Playing at UVA like as a sophomore, that was crazy too. But we are down in Florida on our spring break trip. We get back on the plane, and right before we get on the plane, we see all this stuff like coronavirus, NBA's canceling games, or things are getting postponed, and we have no idea what's going on. We get on the plane, quick 2-3 hour flight back home, land, coach kind of calls everybody up, and in the airport says, we're going to have a meeting with the AD tomorrow. Season's over. Like, you guys are probably going home in a week. School's over. The season's over. Like, there's nothing we can say. We're sorry. And the look, obviously, on everyone's faces, but the look on the seniors' faces, man, I just, like, I'll never forget that. And nobody had a clue what was going on. It was wild.
Yeah, I mean, I remember like yesterday, for me, I was in high school, and I remember leaving. It was a Friday, and I looked at one of my teammates, and he was like, this is the last time we're ever going to be in school. I'm like, what are you talking about? And he's like, I'm telling you, this was it. Sure enough, this was it. Our head coach texted us, "Oh, the season's going to be on. We're going to be fine." Like, they canceled the NBA. You think they're going to let high school baseball play? You got to be out of your mind if you think that's going to happen. And then college got canceled, and he's like, "No, we're still going to play." I'm like, "Okay, sure." But yeah, it was obviously a blur. COVID's a blur. So you have that, you're shut down. You're like, what do I do now? Right? You go like, what do I do now? You don't know if you're ever going to play in college again because they're saying a couple years. And you go back to Staten Island. Now you can't even leave your house because you're in New York. And yeah, you know how things are over there.
We won't get into that.
Yeah, that's another conversation.
But you go back your junior year, and you bat 355. So you go back your junior year, and you bat 355. After that season, you're probably thinking, "Damn, let's ride," right? I mean, you're probably thinking, "Let's go." Like, at that point, after batting 355, did you have any thoughts of playing professional baseball?
So that was when the thought started, was after my junior year. I went, like, remember, we go back to high school. Chris, this is the best academic option for you. It's a no-brainer. That was the main focus at the time. Then I had such a good junior season, like first team all conference, well, whatever the accolades were. And then it came into my mind. I was like, man, I might have a shot to do this. I'm going to put every egg in the basket and go for it. That was my motivation. I was like, I've put so much time and effort into baseball for the last how many years you could ever think. How am I not going to give myself a chance to play pro ball? So I think after that junior year, when I had a really good one, that was when I truly was like, all right, let's do this pro ball. Like that was when I knew it was a real opportunity.
So then you go back your senior year, and you pretty much do the same thing. So after that, you're probably thinking, yeah, like, I have a really good chance. Did you hear anything after your senior year?
I heard nothing. It was weird. It's very rare that hitters, especially, get drafted or signed out of the Patriot League. It doesn't happen very often, but not even a phone call, not a team reaching out. So it was like real disappointing, but thankfully, due to my injury my freshman year and COVID our sophomore year, I had obviously a huge door and a new opportunity open up for me.
Yeah, so with COVID, the fifth year was born. COVID happens, 50 years are born, even 6 years. And now that you're going into your senior year and you know that you have an extra year, fifth year, what was the process like there? Because you're like, okay, I have an opportunity to go fifth year at somewhere else. So what was the process like that? Because it's different than anything else anyone's ever done. So I'm guessing schools are reaching out, wanting you for a fifth-year option. So explain to the viewers what that was like.
Yeah, so my situation is really unique. Like I have the weirdest story ever in terms of like college baseball, but you couldn't physically stay for a fifth year at Bucknell. They didn't have the graduate school options. Like they have very limited, and it's engineering and like stuff that it just wasn't possible for me.
Mm-hmm.
Money wise, it wasn't possible for scholarships. Like it wasn't in Bucknell's. Like it's never happened before. Bucknell was not taking fifth years. So with that being said, my coaches were amazing in kind of helping me out. I put my name in the portal as soon as I could my senior year. Obviously, schools reached out to me, to my coaches, and like they were the best they could be in helping me find the right fit. And my goal was to strictly find the best baseball program I could. Like I said, I put all my eggs in the pro ball basket. Like I was getting the Bucknell degree. Now it was time to go try to play pro ball. A couple Power 5 schools reached out, and that was kind of my main goal. It was like Power 5 is the best move for me. So I had a couple of those schools reach out, and then I had Tech reach out. At that time, VT wasn't the best team in the ACC. They were pretty good, like middle of the pack, but you kind of see the hammer celebration on Twitter. and they're just known for smacking the ball all over the place. So I took my visit to Tech, absolutely loved it. Saw Gavin Cross hit a 475-foot home run in an inter squad, and was like, this place is pretty hard to say no to.
Yeah, I mean, we committed around the same time, actually, and I was coming from a JUCO, you were coming from a fifth year. We had no idea, and which is kind of cool that we committed at the same time, because I was in the same boat where I was like, I'm going to go to Tech. They're not the best ACC team, but they're still in the ACC and stuff like that. I was going to wait it out, but I think Tech would be a good fit. And then all of a sudden, 22 Hokies. Ugh.
Just
They
out
just
of
dominate.
out of
Just
absolutely nowhere.
dominate just everybody. Like, just I'm following along and stuff like that because I'm in our season, you're in your season. I'm like, let me just check on the Hokies. Everyone on that team is batting over 4. I see this kid Jack Hurley batting 455 with 12. I'm like, wait a minute. What is that? What am I looking at? Like, this is ridiculous. And then eventually they finish a game away from going to Omaha, and they won the ACC, number 2 in the country. And I'm like, you're probably thinking too, like, damn, people are going to be like, damn, you're going to Tech? Instead of like, oh, you're going to Tech. It's like, damn, you're going to Tech. So I think that was cool going in. It was like a little bit of like, oh boy, we're going into this type of program going in. So after that, you have your senior year. And you mentioned that you went to Tech early in the summer.
I did, yeah. So I didn't play summer ball my senior year. Mm-hmm. I went to, like, I've been undersized my whole career. One of the big things for the Tech coaches was like, you still need to get bigger 4 years into college. Mm-hmm. So I went to Tech in July, and I worked out the entire summer with our strength coach. And I think that really helped me because I was, like I said, again, another new place that, like, VT and Blacksburg, a lot different than Staten Island too, and a lot different from Lewisburg. Like, Bucknell was no more than 4,000 kids. Tech has about 45,000.
Yeah.
So the whole thing was really new to me, and having that time to adjust and kind of get with the program and get used to their facilities and the coaches, I think benefited me in a really big way.
Yeah, I mean, you going early, I think goes. Nick, were you going to say something?
Yeah, I was going to ask him, like, I've been to Bucknell and I've been to Virginia Tech. Bucknell's just like a smaller version, I feel like, of Virginia Tech a little bit due to the way it's built, just with the bars and everything. But Virginia Tech, that place, you guys know how to get rowdy, I'll tell you that much.
They get, yeah. VT is a crazy place. Like, the fans at Tech are unlike anything I've ever witnessed in my life, like, for any sport. People love their Hokies, man. They really do.
I mean, I remember being there for the football game when we came up, and I remember it was a noon kickoff, and both teams stunk. And Enter Sandman comes on, and the whole stadium starts shaking. I'm like, like, this is insane.
Well, this is the Virginia Tech Hokie fan base. Let me give it to the fans here, to the people watching. This is the Hokie fan base. You got a whole bunch of blue collar individuals with their blue jeans on, drinking. They're just crushed a 12-pack before they even left the house, before the tailgate. Now they're getting into their pickup trucks, rooting on the Hokies because there's nothing else but the Hokies. You're going there, blue collar. You're wearing a Hokie. You're wearing a maroon sweatshirt with a bird right in the middle, and you bleed the Hokies. You bleed Enter Sandman. That's playing the whole way. The playlist is one song on your 30-minute drive of Blacksburg, and that's Enter Sandman for a Saturday football game. Let me tell you. And they are the most loyal fans there are. Most loyal fans, win or lose, because they are dog meat football organization.
They're not
but they still go out there full pack. Enter Sandman. We're fired up like we're Alabama.
Juiced up.
But you know what? That's the fans you got. Blue-collar individuals love themselves the Hokies. But now, okay, let's get back to it. You get to Virginia Tech early. And, man, honestly, I think you lucked out big time because you got put into a house with, I mean, the house that you got put into was probably the best house you can honestly ask for as a transfer, I would say, because you got two really hardworking Hokies, blue-blooded Hokies. They do everything for the program. You got Tackett, you got Gary and Gable, right? They love Hokies. They know the whole ins and outs. Then you got the best player on our team, Jack Hurley, who very different, very entertaining, but very different. But you get to live with like one of the most talented kids you've ever seen, right? And then you got another transfer from not that far from Radford, who's kind of in the same boat as you, and you're a transfer, and now you're all in the same house. How do you think being in that house with those guys shaped your whole experience at Tech?
I think you were spot on in saying that is the best possible situation I could have got put into. Like, the 4 guys I lived with last year are 4 of my best friends that I will never stop talking to for the rest of my life. Like, you know it. You were there all the time. When I tell you those kids were just the most easygoing, like fun, hardworking guys to be around, and getting to live with them every day was it was awesome. Garrick and Tackett, like you said, the most hardworking blue collar guys. They got on me and were like, hey, like, we're going to hit, you coming? And that was like a daily thing. So didn't have to worry about that. Like, I always had people to hit with, always had people to lift with. Me and Jack got really close, like especially being outfielders. And just getting to watch that kid every day was special, to say the least. Like, you've seen kids swing bats and be like, wow, but you watch Hurley swing a bat and it's just another level. And I think another big thing was like me and David got really close because we were in the same spot. We did the same graduate program. We were kind of in the same boat the whole way. So I think having someone to go along with the journey was pretty helpful as well.
And they're all easygoing guys. Obviously, you got Tackett, but Tackett from the outside, you're like, damn, this guy's just locked in. But from the inside, you see how easygoing that guy can be, Yeah. But I think your house was really great. It was my favorite house to go to. It was towards the second semester where we started getting close more because I don't know. I just started going over there a lot more. I mean, this is Nick. To give you perspective, this is what the house looked like on a daily basis. First of all, it was a mess, complete another mess, except Tackett's room. Tackett's got OCD. Everything is neat. You can't mess with Tackett's room. Whatever. So you go into the house. Tackett is sleeping at 9 o'clock, right? He's in the basement, sleeping at 9 o'clock. It's like waking the monster. You do not want to wake the monster up, okay? You got Tackett down there. You got DB coming in with his trop smoothie and his Chipotle mix. He had to go to 2 places because he liked the smoothie and liked the Chipotle.
You had to get both of them every time.
You had Chris and Garrig hydrating after practice, playing UFC. And you know what I mean by hydrating, right, Nick?
Yeah, I got you.
Yeah, I get the hydrating. And you got Beast, Jack Hurley upstairs on the phone, FT time with KT.
With the Fiendster.
With the Fiendster. There was a point in time where there was, it was a different scenario. But most of the time he was up there and then he would wander down. But that was kind of the dynamic of the house. And it was just like every day you knew what you were getting going in there. And it was just really fun because they had this speaker with a microphone. And we would just rip whatever we wanted on that speaker. And honestly, when Tacky would come upstairs and get on that speaker, things started getting heinous real quick. Real quick, things got heinous when he got on the mic. And I have to say that was a lot of fun. But let's get back to the fall. You're in the fall, Virginia Tech Hokies. You were there for the summer. How different was it than Bucknell?
I can't even put it into perspective how different it was. First off, I think the talent-wise, every player at Tech was just so talented. And obviously Bucknell had some really, really good players, and it still does. But like the depth and of how good every single kid was kind of a shock to me. I was like, holy crap, there's a lot of talent here. Like I got to do something to show out. The coaching was just crazy how hands-on it was. Like we have more support staff at Tech than I think there's teachers in like that teach at Bucknell. It's just crazy how many people on a daily basis you're working with at Tech, whether it be like nutrition, lifting, hitting, fielding, anything. Like Tech has someone to support you with it. So all those things were big adjustments for me. Like even something as simple as Weaver, which is the baseball building, like having 4 indoor cages and machines and like a locker room and a nutrition center every day, like available to you. I've never even seen that before. At Bucknell, we had 1 indoor cage, and it would drop down in the middle of the rec center, and you would split it in half, so you can use 2 cages at once. And we'd have to share it with softball when it snowed. So it was just like a culture change, kind of shock to the system, but it's great, man.
Yeah, for people that don't know what he's talking about, man, Virginia Tech, you walk into Weaver, and the 4 cages, TrackMan, basically in each cage. Every machine, I didn't even know they had machines that literally pits to you with no automatic feeding. You got the exit velos, you got launch angle, you got this, you got that, you got the nutrition center. Then you go over to the SAP where they have a buffet twice a day of just anything you wanted, just for athletes. You have the ice cold tub, you got the hot tub, you got the sauna, you got the steam room. I mean, you get treated like you're in the big leagues. Legitimately get treated like you're in the big leagues. If you needed help with homework, they'll send a tutor to you. If you needed literally anything, we have bod pods checking your body fat index. You got full-time strength coach. You got a full-time 2 strength coaches actually. You got anybody anything you need taken care of, literally taken care of on a daily basis. You got Stags in there working full-time just for baseball. It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
So,
question for both of you actually. Transfers. I don't know. This might be a little dumb, but like going into VT from Chris come from G, you come from a smaller Division 1. How would you say all that new stuff being exposed that it's like a little bit overwhelming at first? Be like you don't know like what I'm supposed to be doing, or it's like you were just like came in, you were able to figure it out pretty much.
Overwhelmed for sure. Like I had no clue how to even like set a machine up like with some of the crazy things they have. So I was definitely overwhelmed, and that's when guys like Garrick and Tackett, I give them credit all the time. They kind of step in and like show you the way a little bit. So they'll show you how to set up TrackMan. They'll show you how to set up the machines the right way. Like there's pictures of how your locker is supposed to look, hanging on bulletin boards. So like over time, you kind of develop your own routine and you get used to it. But at first, like overwhelmed for sure. It was just a lot being thrown at you from a new angle.
Yeah, Nick. To answer your question, for me, what the technology we had at Lewisburg Junior College, we had a spigot outside of our dugout, which that's where we hydrated from, and. So coming from that to going to Virginia Tech, I had to ask. It was I almost was like embarrassed on my visit and stuff like that. I'd ask. I was like, at the nutrition center, like, is this free? Like, are you allowed to have this? Or and they're like, yeah. What do you mean? I'm like, what do you mean? I used to have to make peanut butter and honey before games. That was our pregame and postgame meal: peanut butter and honey that our coach would slather on a little bit of honey, and we'd have to put the bread together. That was our pregame and postgame meal. Our pregame and postgame meals were just, we would have like Jersey Mike's lined up. We would have Moe's lined up. We would have Outback lined up. People wouldn't even eat it. I'm like, are you kidding me? I'll take the seconds. I'll take the doubles. Give me a baked potato too. The stuff that we would get was ridiculous. No, seriously, it was ridiculous. And I was overwhelmed big time at that because not only but you get all that stuff, it sounds great, it sounds really good, but you're also at the field 8 hours a day.
That's the kicker right there.
8 hours a day, even though you get all this cool stuff, you're at the field 8 hours a day. Your off days have optional hitting times that are not optional. You can't miss. Optional lift on a Sunday morning. You're like, wow.
Now,
wow. Okay.
Another thing. That,
even. Oops, sorry. Go ahead.
No. Go sidetracking off of that. Like, you come in and you see all this stuff, and then you're treated that way. You're expected to pretty much act like a big leaguer, and you've learned real quick that it's a business. It's no longer just baseball. I'm sure.
100%. It's definitely like, I think the best way to like even describe it from an outside point of view is like the way Spars did it, and the way you're literally at the field for 8 hours a day. It's like working a 9 to 5 for baseball, pretty much. But you kind of just learn to love it and do it every day, and like it was definitely different for me. Like at Bucknell, we didn't do anything like that. It was kind of, you went to class all day and then you practiced from 4 to 7, and that was it. It's not like that here, that's for sure.
No, it's definitely baseball then class. Class is very secondary compared to baseball tech. I mean, you would have we'd probably on a normal day get there at like 11:30, and then after lift, probably be home after SAP around 7:38. Just classic day in and day out. And in that it's not like 8 hours just dragged out. It's full intent. Like, you cannot take BP half-ass either. You're taking BP full reps, full pants, full reps, everything. Like, there's no break. There is no break. And for freshmen, it's even worse. You got study hall 2 days a week all year. Are you kidding me? Like, unreal.
Yeah. The Division I sports, especially at the Power 5 level, I hate to say it, but like at the end of the day, these coaches, they like to say that they care about all these players, they care about all of them. But at the end of the day, if you're not helping them win or helping them keep their jobs, they're gonna cut ties. But because they understand that if they're not winning, they're gonna get fired. So it's truly the Power 5 level. All these places, it's a business. It's no joke. It's you win or that's it.
I mean, everyone's their guy until they get there. Once they get there, you're my guy. You're our guy. We're going to treat you this way. You get there, you're a number. I don't even know who you are. I don't know who you are.
You're
a number. I don't know who. Yep, number 44. That was my number in the fall. I don't know.
44 for the Hokies right there.
44 for the Hokies. Honestly, you get to the fall, it's a sprint. It's a sprint. You get back in the spring, and you're like, where am I? Type of thing. You're like, oh, my God, we got to play in the ACC now, and the first game hits, you're like, oh, my. So let's get to it. Chris, you get there, and you see all this talent. You're like, oh, boy. How am I going to get on the ball field here? You know what I mean? Because, like, that's the first thought that went through my head and went through probably a whole bunch of people's head, because they see you got literally, Nick, the first day. I'm like, yeah, I'm going to play outfield and stuff like this and that. And you see guys like Carson Jones, Jack Hurley going 110 over the batter's eye. And we're like, what the fuck is that? I mean, what is that? Literally, what is that? I've never seen anything like that before.
Mm-mm.
They're just casually doing it. And I'm like, this is going to be rough. Like, this is complete and utter madness. Literally. I asked CJ, I was like, do you go here? He's like, yeah, man. Yeah, I just, I'm a senior. I'm just finishing up. I'm thinking this guy's in pro ball, just coming back in MVP. No. This guy's like 215, just chiseled, Nick. When I tell you 8-pack, I'm like, wow. Okay.
If you could think about a kid who looks like as close to a Greek god as you could think, it's probably Carson Jones.
6'3", just like 215, just pure, just machine, hitting balls like 500 feet. You're like, all right, it's good. This is good. So, Chris, you had a good fall, right? You had a good fall. You come back into the spring. You're lined up. You're going to start left field. You're the Hokie starter in left, but in your head, you're like, I got short leash, obviously, because we got guys all over the place, right? So you're playing, you start off, and man, Nick, when I tell you, I'm gonna put him on blast right here. Chris Cannizzaro was the best hitter in the country for the first month of the season. He was topping Dylan Cruz in the statistic leaderboard across the nation. It was probably the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen. This guy's batting .550 going into ACC play, and I'm like, wait a minute. This guy against Charlotte, really good program, went to a regional, just literally single-handedly won us a full series. I was like, this is unbelievable. Like, he would have, Nick, it was easy 3 to 4 hits a game with at least a tank or a double. Everything he saw was a hit. Chris, I want you to explain to the viewers because I still don't understand what the hell that was.
Yeah, I mean, I think I could say that's the most fun I've ever had playing baseball. That's for sure. I really don't know. Like, I kind of can't put into words like what that stretch was like. I think that the best way for me to describe it is you always hear the term like, when you go up there and you're just seeing a beach ball. Like, that's kind of what I felt like. I thought I was just seeing the ball so well. Like, I don't know if it was just I was starting everything like perfectly on time for so many days in a row and everything was just coming to me naturally. But like, I went through nothing changed for me. Like, I had the routine. I pretty much had a Bucknell every day. Like, I don't really have so many superstitions that changed or anything like that. I think it was just one of those, like, you're really hot for a little bit. But as you know, really hot turned to really cold really quickly.
Yeah, I mean, but man, I just can't even. It was ridiculous. Nick, ridiculous. Like, this guy was just banging balls around the park. He hit ball 113. He's 175 pounds. It's ball 113. I'm like, wait a minute. What? What is that? Like, that's crazy. This guy's hitting the tank every freaking at bat. It was unbelievable. And then, obviously, hit some struggles, which everyone does through ACC play and stuff like that, up and down. But we get through the season. You're having a really good year. Face the number 1 team in the country against the second best pitcher in the nation, Rhett Lauder. We're going in there. Hokies are fighting. We're fighting. We're crawling. We need every win possible. We're facing the number 1 team in the nation against the number 2 pitcher in the nation. And this guy's just dominant, right? It's so hard to get even a hit off this guy. Cannizzaro comes up in, I believe, his third at bat, right? Third or second at bat. Rhett Lauder throws a fastball. Chris Cannizzaro turns on that thing and puts it into the night sky for a homer. Let me walk us through, because, Nick, it was the most packed that stadium's ever been in the history of the program. And Rhett Lauder's shoving. I mean, he's got 12 strikeouts in the first 6, maybe the first 6, 12 strikeouts. And everyone was like, yeah, Rhett's doing Rhett. But Chris, like, what were you thinking that bat?
Yeah, I mean, so my first at bat, I remember being pretty nervous going into that game. I was like, all right, I usually don't get too nervous about anything. Facing Rhett Lauder's like got me going a little bit. I was more nervous than I usually am for a game. First at bat, I go in there and I get a safety squeeze sign. And I'm like, oh my God, I haven't bunted in months. Like, I don't know what I'm going to do. Thankfully, he hangs a changeup almost at my face, and I put the barrel on the ball, and we score a run on a safety squeeze. And that was like the most relieved I've ever been. After that, I felt fine. Going to my next at bat, kind of talking with our coaches a little bit beforehand, and they were just like, listen, he's kind of throwing all 3 pitches right now. The one to righties that's giving everybody trouble is the slider. If I were you, I would take the slider. So in my mind, I was like, take the slider. Going to just try to make it as plain and simple as I can. Get up there, he throws a couple sliders, pretty good pitches, but worked myself into a hitter's count 3-1. And once I get there, I'm like, all right, he's going to throw me a fastball. I'm going to sell out to it and try to take my best swing. Throws me a 3-1 fastball. I think it was 95 or 96. And just in my head, I remember trying to be early. I was like, speed everything up a little bit and just be earlier than you normally would. Luckily, made contact, pretty good spot, and put a good swing on it.
And deposited that thing over the left field wall.
Yeah.
Like, don't be shy about that. You deposited that thing over the left field wall, and we're like, whoa, okay. And but that's a really big home run. But I'm not gonna say that's your biggest, because I'm going back to the UVA series Sunday. UVA 1-1 series. 1-1 series, biggest series of the year thus far. You need this win. UVA is number 5 in the country. Bases juice, I think we're down 3 or down 2, I believe. Or maybe we're up a little bit, right? And you come up to the plate, bases loaded, I believe 1 or 2 outs. I'm on deck. I'm getting my timing ready. I'm like, oh, boy, here we go. They bring their closer in. Boom. You deposit this thing over the center field wall. Grand slam. That really put us over in that game. What was the feeling? Because you're struggling before this. What was the feeling that you had when you hit that ball out that center?
Yeah, that was I was at a pretty low spot at that point. That was when I was struggling for a while. I had that hand injury where I was struggling to even grip the bat. Like, couldn't play the first 2 days because I could barely take a BP round. So I was in the lowest of lows. They gave me the start on Sunday. I told them I was good to go. And I remember, like, I've never seen our stadium that packed in my life. Like, that place was jumping.
That was crazy. Yeah.
And I just remember going into that at-bat, big spot. Liked the matchup. It was a lefty with a high carry fastball. And I usually don't struggle too much with high carry. So I kind of just thought to myself, I was like, all right, he's a primary fastball guy. Like, high carry, swing over it. Like, just be on time. That's all you can do. So similar to, like, the approach I had against Rhett, just kind of be on time, start everything a little bit early. Like, you're going to get a fastball. It's going to be high carry. And then, you hit it and you get it about as pure as you possibly can. It goes over the fence. And I'm not the most emotional player on the field. I don't show a ton of emotion. But there's videos of me rounding first base, like, saying something to UVA's dugout, and just, like, it was awesome. Like, that was one of the times I've gotten emotional on the field. And that was a crazy series win for us.
Yeah, that was awesome. I mean, I remember walking to the plate after that. I'm fired up, and I'm thinking to myself, how do you top that? I don't think you do. I'm just going to stand in this box real quick and maybe see a good pitch. I ended up hitting an absolute nuke foul, which kind of fired me up. But other than that, I was just like, damn, like, this is lit. Like, I can't believe what just happened. I just cannot believe what just happened. Kyle Teal sitting back there like, damn, that ball was crushed. And, yeah, that was an awesome series win for the Hokies. Thought we had good momentum going after that, but didn't turn out like it. But let's bring it back to after the Wake Forest series, going to conference tournament, cool, all that, season ends. Now when you're in a good position to play pro ball, right, you think that you have a really good chance playing professional baseball. What were the conversations that happened with that after the season?
Yeah, so I was pretty new to the whole idea of pro ball, and I didn't really know how to go about it all so well. and I relied heavily on our coaches, and they did a great job. I mean, they kind of helped me along. But something for me is I didn't have an advisor. So did that hurt me? Maybe. Did it help? Like I'll never know, to be honest with you. I know there was interest from a couple teams. Like our coaches told me that. I was under the influence that I was going to be able to sign a free agent deal at the very least. I thought that was going to be the worst case scenario. I didn't really envision myself going back to school after the year I had. We get to draft day, the draft goes by, like call up our coaches. They're like, hey, like, don't worry about it. Like, you're probably going to hear something in the next couple of days. My mindset was if I hear anything, if I get any opportunity, I'm taking it. Like, I want to play pro ball. Couple of days go by, nothing. And then I'm like, all right, listen, I got granted a 6th year for a reason. Like, I'm going back to Tech, and I'm just going to get as big and strong as I possibly can, and, like, I'm going to get after it next year. So that's kind of where I'm at right now. I'm back at school. I've put on some weight. I'm hitting the ball harder than I was last year. So that's kind of the plan moving forward.
Yeah, it's good. You get another year of ACC baseball, which is nice and stuff like that. Hopefully you pick up an advisor, because I don't know how good the coaches there are going to help you, because obviously they wanted you to come back. In my mind, that's what I thought I knew they were going to do, because they wanted you to come back, and I don't know how much they promoted. And, they should never – I hope that's not the case, but they should never be, wanting to have somebody come back and stop you from achieving your dreams. So hopefully that wasn't the case, but I thought you were good enough to play professional baseball this year, but you're going to do it next year, and you're going to finish up at Tech and stuff like that. You're in a good situation, good spot. And I'm very excited to see what you're going to do from here. If there's any advice you would give to your younger self or younger players out there, what would it be?
I think the biggest piece of advice I would give to my younger self would be, obviously, work hard. That's like the easy thing. Everybody's going to say that. But I would say find a way to love what you're doing. Like, find a way to make it fun. Like, even though working hard sucks sometimes and, like, you're going through it, you're going to look back and be like, God damn, like, that was so much fun. And if you can realize it in the moment, you're going to want to keep doing it and do more. So that was, like, a big thing for me this year. Like, this could be my last year playing ball. I'm not taking anything for granted. Like, yes, being at the field 8 hours is brutal every day, but damn, I'm enjoying it more than I ever have. So I think if you can find a way to enjoy it and embrace it and have fun along the way, like, I think it's going to benefit you in the long run.
Yeah, I completely agree. I wanted to bring this up, and because I want to see, because I always ask these questions to people, and how do you, to younger people, younger viewers, how would you say the best way to deal with adversity is? Because you've dealt with a lot of adversity in your career and your life, so I'm curious to see how you've dealt with your adversity.
The biggest piece of advice I could give for that is don't be scared to rely on people. I, for one, rely largely on my family. My mom and my dad have gotten me through so much more than I thought. Like, I thought I could get through it by myself. Not even close. Like, my injuries, my struggles, no matter what, they will always pick up the phone and be there for you. Don't be scared to rely on them. Your teammates, don't be scared to rely on your teammates. Like, they know you almost better than your family knows you sometimes, because that's how much time you're spending around them. Like, don't be scared to reach out and be like, hey, listen, man, I'm struggling. Like, can you help me out? Because guess what? Like, if your teammates are good guys, which they all are most of the time, they'll be there for you. So definitely don't be scared to rely on other people. Use them as resources. Like, that's a big thing for me.
Wow, that's great. Nick, you got anything left to add?
No, I thought a lot of this was very informative, and it was great having you on. It was great to meet you.
Yeah, man, you too. This was a blast.
Look forward to watching you at Virginia Tech this year for sure.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, Chris, thanks for coming on. Right, you had a ton of fun on here. I hope you did as well, and I think you gave a lot of good knowledge to the younger listeners and just listeners in general. And we hope to have you on here again after you sign a pro contract. I would like to have you back on here and talk about your season and you signing and stuff like that. And yeah, thank you again for coming on.
Absolutely, brother. I loved it, and anytime.